With all of humanity on the precipice of a zombie apocalypse, each of us has been forced to face the question of our own mortality. And in the poker community, we've also been forced to face the question of the mortality of our beloved game. Card rooms across the world have shut down indefinitely, and the largest casino operators are on the brink of collapse. This has impacted poker media as well, as many of your favorite live poker vloggers have been largely decommissioned, and even the king of poker YouTube himself has shuttered his channel. However, in the midst of this chaos, there may be an opportunity for us to reflect on and reevaluate the current course of poker, and maybe, just maybe, come out at the end of all of this with an optimistic path forward. So today I will not be doing a hand review, and instead I'll be providing some food for thought on the future of poker, and hopefully this topic will appeal to a broader audience and give some of you a bit of respite during these trying times. So a few months back I posted a video regarding Jason Koon's blog, which outlined his complex decision-making process. In that video, I made an argument that the primary focus of any professional poker player should be to use every resource available at his disposal to put himself in the best position to win. However, I left unanswered the separate and perhaps more important question of what the poker community as a whole should focus on in order to advance and grow the game. It appears that the mainstream view in this regard is that we should try to recapture the glory days of poker's past, where it was a much simpler game that appealed to the general masses. However, in my humble opinion, instead of looking backwards, we should look forwards and embrace the advancement of the game for a number of reasons. For one, by clinging on to the past and trying to promote poker as a fun, simple activity where you have the chance to get lucky and make a lot of money, we're attracting a segment of the population, most of whom will not be long-term sustainable contributors to the poker economy. Right, we've all seen this type of commercial before. An attractive young man or woman sitting at home, lonely and bored, until they log into a poker site and suddenly they're having a mind-blowing orgasm of epic proportions. What these and similar marketing tactics essentially are aiming to do is to attract casual gamblers with a dream of becoming the next Chris Moneymaker. However, the reality of poker, of course, is much different than this portrayal. Poker is an incredibly difficult and at times brutal game. The vast majority of casual players that are sucked into poker by this seductive siren song will soon realize that they're in over their heads, and the game will quickly chew them up and spit them out. And there are only so many fish that poker can lure in, fillet, and then toss away the bones until the aquarium is empty. Think about it. How many casual blackjack or slot machine players are there that play year-round on a consistent basis? That group is very, very small. The idea that there's a huge segment of the population that will happily lose hand after hand and loads of money as long as they're having fun is pure fiction. The reality is that outside of degenerate gamblers or millionaires, most of mainstream society seldomly gambles. Right, for most people, their participation in gambling amounts to an annual trip to Vegas filled with booze, pills, and strippers, only to wake up the next day with a massive hangover vowing to never go through that again, until next year. Another reason why marketing poker as a casual fun game is self-defeating is that it creates a disconnect between novice players and poker's elite. If you think about it, probably the number one attraction for fans and participants in any sport or activity are its superstars. Right, no one watches the Lakers to see Jared Dudley sit on the bench giving high-level dabs to his teammates. They watch to see LeBron James throw down crazy windmill dunks. And for the most part, these superstars aren't revered and followed because of their personalities, but rather it's their superhuman feats and achievements at performing their respective sport or activity at a level far surpassing that of the average Joe. Think about it. One of the most popular football players who had the entire sports world sitting on pins and needles is Tom Brady, who has the personality of a piece of stale bread. Khabib Nurmagomedov has nearly 20 million Instagram followers, but his demeanor is even colder than Mother Russia in January.
I don't like watch movie about love. Too much movie make your heart weak.
And Kobe Bryant, adored and worshipped around the world, was known to be one of the most ruthless competitors to ever step foot on a basketball court, even to his teammates. In poker, our superstars similarly are able to achieve a level of excellence that few can match, but yet they aren't upheld or highlighted to anywhere near the same degree as superstars in other sports, and in fact the opposite is often true, in that they're regularly criticized and maligned. The reason for this, in my opinion, is because a large segment of the poker community was brought into this world under the premise that it's a simple gambler's game that is just about having some fun. In other words, the game that most of these casual wrecks are playing, in their mind's eye, is completely different from the game that poker's elite are playing. The consequence of this is that there's no one in the game for these casual players to look up to and to aspire to become like. So instead, figures in the poker community that are prominently featured are often fun players that are gregarious and like to gamble it up. But while we shouldn't discourage anyone from playing poker, putting these types of players on a pedestal is like ABC broadcasting the Harlem Globetrotters instead of the Lakers vs. Celtics on Christmas Day, or the UFC pitting some tough man competitors against each other on Super Bowl weekend. Think about it. The one time in recent memory that poker was given mainstream attention was when the national spotlight was shined on a scumbag that was getting hole card data from his crotch. And many in the poker community were apparently overjoyed by and even amplified this coverage. But is that really the image of poker that we want broadcasted to the general public? And finally, perhaps the most powerful argument against marketing poker as a simple gambling game is the fact that the single greatest impediment to poker becoming mainstream is its illegality. The question of a game's legality in many, if not most jurisdictions across the United States and around the world hinges upon whether the game is primarily one of skill or one of chance. If a game is deemed to be one primarily of skill, it is legal, such as was determined to be the case with fantasy football. However, if the game is primarily driven by chance, it is deemed to be gambling and therefore illegal in most jurisdictions. Now, most of you watching this video know quite well that although there are many chance elements in poker, it is primarily a game of skill, where in the long run the better players will beat out the weaker players. However, when we market poker as a casual fun game, where anyone with a chip and a chair has the chance to win millions of dollars, which we all know to be a bold-faced lie, we are essentially shooting ourselves in the foot when it comes to the movement to legalize poker globally. So if the future of poker isn't marketing it as a simple, fun game, what is its future? Well, there is an activity that shares many similarities to poker, which we may be able to use as a model. And it's an activity that is extremely popular all across the world: golf. Similar to poker, golf is a social game that does not require much or any athleticism, and it's an activity that is accessible across all demographics: young, old, male, female, rich, poor, skilled, and unskilled. Additionally, many of the qualities that make golf so appealing to the masses also exist in poker, such as the fact that it is an incredibly challenging game that requires a lot of focus and skill, which a player can continuously improve upon through diligent practice. It's a game that allows a group of people that are well past their physical primes, and even those who never had one, to battle it out in an extremely competitive environment and to experience the thrills of victories and agonies of defeat, which are emotions that are usually only reserved for professional athletes. In the United States alone, there are tens of millions of recreational golfers that contribute tens of billions of dollars a year to the golf economy. And why do they do this? Is it because they want to join the PGA or LPGA? No, the vast majority have no aspirations of becoming pro, but they still devote a huge amount of time and money to the sport because they simply love the game. And there's no reason why poker can't mimic this success, at least to some degree. Poker is even more accessible than golf in that you don't need special equipment or to go to a club to play, and it requires even less physical ability than golf. In fact, I've witnessed on more than one occasion a player in a wheelchair mop the floor with the entire table and then cart off with a huge stack of chips. And having participated in both activities, I can confidently say that there's nothing in golf that requires as much mental acuity and focus as poker, or that evokes an emotional response to the degree that is anywhere remotely close to the emotions that are triggered when trying to pull off a massive bluff or when sucking out on the river and winning a huge pot. So how do we, in practice, use golf as a model to follow for poker? Well, in my humble opinion, we stop trying to dumb down the game in an attempt to attract the casual gambler, and instead we gear the game towards attracting a different demographic. 25 to 65-year-old professionals who actually have enough disposable income to lose a few buy-ins here and there without having to mortgage their house, and who also have the intrinsic desire to exercise their competitive muscles through a battle of intelligence and wits. Instead of running away from the advancement of the game, we should embrace the complexity and sophistication of poker and leave the relics of the past to either change or adapt. Why should we shy away from the deliberation and attention to detail needed to play the game at a high level? Have you ever seen a golf fan whine about Tiger Woods tanking when he takes 5 minutes to line up a putt? No, they're all captivated by the moment because the golf audience is informed and understands the precision and skill necessary to achieve the highest level of play in a very difficult game. Now, in all likelihood, transforming the culture of poker in this manner will not be easy. For far too long, poker has been stigmatized as a back alley game full of hoodlums and scammers, so it will require a sea change in order to alter the current perception of the game. But if we're able to gradually get away from trying to manipulate and dress up the image of poker in an effort to appeal to mindless gamblers, and if instead of overemphasizing the monetary aspect of poker and the personalities of its players, we simply focus on the game itself, in all of its unbridled, brilliant beauty, it may be possible that one day poker will emerge from these ashes before us and rise like the phoenix. So that's the video for today. Thanks for watching, and until next time, stay at home.